Kashmir, because how is Kashmir talked about? To give you an example. Kashmir today in the Indian media is presented as things have eased up, militancy has been crushed, there are now more than 150 to 300 militants left in entirety of Jammu and Kashmir, for which you require 600,000 soldiers, by the way, armed to the teeth and with legal immunity. So it doesn't make sense. Obviously they're not there to fight militants, they're there to control the people. Exactly what the Israelis are trying to do in Gaza. They will not kill each and every civilian. The lesson they're driving is you give up your fight, you surrender, you submit. When this Israeli former chief of staff said, insisted that what he wanted was to, what was his thing that he used?
Mowing the grass. Mowing the grass.
No, not mowing. There is another. This was, he said, the Palestinians should be reduced to drug cockroaches in a bottle, unquote. Quote, drug cockroaches in a bottle, unquote. No, I mean, this does raise a question. I agree with you that what kind of an Indian society. So I, as a civil liberties, I do talk about Indian society, and I do talk about that there is something called India, and there is a political entity, and there is Indian constitution. But we have to also look very closely and discover that this Indian constitution and this Indian entity finds no place in it for Kashmiri Muslims or Meiteis or Nagas. And today, increasingly, the Adivasis who are led by the Maoists. Yesterday it was the Dalits, a very large section of the Dalits. So it does raise a question. So what do we do? How do we respond to it? I believe that, for instance, fighting against legal immunity is to reach out to a much wider audience to inform them that no matter where you stand on the question of Kashmir, I mean, I support the right of self-determination. I am determined and I'll continue to support it till they reach. Fine. You don't want to? Fine. But then you are obligated to raise this question that can you allow a section of your own people to be subjected to this kind of a rule where they don't enjoy any justice and the forces enjoy? So the ball is in their court. The ball is in the court of those who claim that India is perfect, that Indian constitution, Indian democracy is perfect. They have to establish that how is it possible for two laws to exist. One that completely disenfranchises the Kashmiri Muslims, and another which completely legally immunizes the security forces, and they can get away with anything that they do. I mean, please understand, even a small crime in an armed conflict area, question of rape, torture, all these get aggravated in an armed conflict situation. Rape is not the rape which takes place in a peace area. In a conflict area, rape becomes something which is a deliberate policy to shame and humiliate a people. Right? Torture is also a form of, rape is also a form of torture. Torture in armed conflict area is not the same that the police tortures a suspect in the police custody. In an armed conflict area, torture is, its magnitude, its extent is such, and it is designed to again humiliate a people. Therefore you will find a very high incidence of sodomy, of male torture victims in Kashmir. Very high incidence of sodomy. It's an attempt at shaming, humiliating. So in armed conflict area, all these crimes actually become more aggravated crimes. Now if you can't even provide protection of law, what the hell do you expect Kashmiris to do? Why should they want to remain in part of India? Why?
In fact, that was that would be my whole thing, right? That the reason why Kashmir joined India was because he promised constitutional democracy. He promised something, and that was, I think, the whole reason why India came into being was this promise of a new kind of government. Right? Otherwise, I mean, you know, there could have been different political configurations. Right?
Absolutely.
So I think that for me, it's just remarkable that people are so sensitive to, which is good. I mean, it's good that people came out and, you know, even laws were passed, right? I mean, if you see, India has actually, if you look at the laws, some of the best laws against rape, and not completely. There's still marital rape is still not considered rape, but it caused so much of a churning. People who I knew were completely I don't know, very very sort of feudal or patriarchal. They had a, but still the same people when it comes to Kashmir or to even Manipur, it's the same thing.
Dalit rape. I mean, please, you are right. December 2012, people came out to protest against Nirbhaya. But Dalit girls have been raped right, left and center, right next door in Haryana, Western UP and Rajasthan, and people don't come out in those large numbers. So that's why when I started, it may have sounded provocative, but I really mean it very from deep within my heart, that the Indian civilization is based on violence of the worst kind and inequality of the worst kind. And we have to confront it, we can't avoid it. Otherwise, how do you explain the Dalit issue? How do you explain Dalit issue to me? Or to anybody? It's rooted there and we have to confront it. So the reason I'm raising these issues and trying to present it in a different way and asking people to take war seriously is not because you have to love wars. I do believe that wars resolve issues at times, because if there are no other ways, I mean, how did you expect the Vietnamese to have won their freedom from French and from the Americans without fighting? They wouldn't have got it constitutional way. They wouldn't have. So the war is not always, but when a war is fought in a country which denies the existence of it and therefore follows no law of any kind, neither international law nor domestic laws, immunizes its security forces and disenfranchises a section of the population, then you are creating a condition where people's right to decide and demand the right of self-determination is absolutely, and as thinking people, as people who believe in principles or something, we have to raise our voice against it. And we have to stand up for it. And we have to throw the ball back in the court of those who question our right and our determination to support and raise the right of self-determination, or even talk about the Maoist war and defend it as a political movement against all kind of odds. We have to do it, otherwise what's the point? Because it's only then we bring out the underlying issues which the war is trying to suppress and force us to deny. So the choice for Kashmiris, for instance, today is that they surrender. 600,000 troops have been deployed there for what? This is to ensure that they do not dare to raise their head again or demand Azadi by coming out on the streets. That they know that the cost and the price that they will pay. And I have not even discussed and shared with you what kind of things they do. I mean, you read American accounts of what happens to Afro-Americans. Please, I wish that there were equivalent studies of this nature in India which would bring out how people suffer and continue to suffer. And we are oblivious of it. We don't even take account of it. That creates it. Our Indianness, I mean, to complete, maybe we start interrogating our Indianness by raising these issues. That's the only way in which we can move forward and think in terms of finding some way out.
I just say one more thing. I think that there is a concerted effort. I don't know, maybe out of maybe it was not malicious, but there was this concerted effort, I think, after independence to make Indian nationalism into some sort of a cultural expression. If you see even the movies that, those short 5-minute patriotic songs, which are very beautiful. I mean, I like listening to them. They're very beautiful. The idea is also very beautiful, right? That all these people are so different. But I think somehow that marginalizes the constitutional aspect and, even the limited radical aspect of the Indian project. Because it sort of makes it into India into some sort of a cultural entity, which it is. But that is not the point of the Republic of India. Right? The point of the Republic of India is the preamble of the Constitution. People have to internalize that. Only then I think will they start, Right now in their mind they have a map. They have a map of India, and that is, key. But I think only when people really internalize that will they start responding to.
One thing here is to be noticed what we're talking about India, that the word democracy and words in Hindi are three words I get: Ganatantra, Jantantra and Prajatantra. But most what I see is a Bhid Tantra. They had created mobs everywhere. The slogan, yes, 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 we love India. So all that media, some media have their own interest to create this. Politicians have to own this thing. Oh, we love India. Yes, nothing wrong in that. I love India too. But the main thing is that these things what you're talking about, what we're talking about,